Hey, just a quick note on the following video. The way we recorded it has led to slightly low quality video when we're talking, but you can enjoy the rest of it because it's mainly still images. Hey folks, we are trying something new. I've got Simon on the other end of a Skype call. He's going to be somewhere, I don't know, this is the first time we've done this. So we are going to be talking a little bit actually on this one about Simon's car. So we realized when we were doing the podcasts, there's a bunch of stuff that is a little bit visual and also probably wouldn't take us an hour to get through. So we decided that we would give this a try. So what I've done is I've made a selection of some of the cars that Simon has drawn for various magazines, Classic Ford, Street Machine, and also commissions that he's done. You can commission Simon to do some work for you. It was mainly ones that really caught my eye. And I thought I'd like to know Simon's thinking and also just talk about why I like them so much. So if I can share a screen with Simon, I will, 1 second, bring up the first of the ones that caught my eye.
This is unnerving.
I know, you should be concerned. I will share my screen and hopefully I can do this and then this. Can you now see a brown Corsair?
Oh, I can. Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I'm hoping the world can as well, but we shall see. So I like this, and I like this for a number of reasons. So I want to hear your thoughts on what you're thinking when you went for this, and I'll give you some thoughts on why I likes it.
Well, this is obviously a classic Ford one. What used to happen in the later end of the classic Ford stuff is we'd choose an advert, often from the magazine Classifieds, sometimes from, I don't know, from Retro Rides Classifieds page, anything like that, but a car that was actually for sale. And then Simon would go, how about this for this month? And he'd send me 2 images or 2 links to 2 cars. And I'd go, yeah, all right, then I'll try that. And then I have to think of something to do with one of the cars. And in this case, it was a 2-door Corsair. Now, at any number of times, you're sort of influenced by what you're seeing. So there might be stuff on Instagram or magazines that you're reading, old or new. And this is just the brown and orange sort of, I don't know, vanning 70s kind of theme is always hovering. It's always something that just feels really cool. And we got our arches on it and stuff. I mean, what you see, but you just have an idea. And I don't know, maybe I'd come back from SEMA or something. The chrome on it looks like it's like a brushed stainless. So there's no chrome on it, just the polished rims. But it's just, they used to send me the stuff. I have the ideas, and I sort of work with it. And often when I'm illustrating it, when I'm drawing it, it takes a bit of a feel of its own. It's amazing how often the title of the image doesn't match the image at all, because I'll start with something. So I don't know what the image is on this, but it might say Corsair Gasser as the image title for when I first started it, and then in the end it's nothing like that. But this is, I mean, it's got shaved door handles on it, so it's a bit of a street machine kind of thing, bit of a race inspired street car rather than a race car. Although look, there's a roll cage.
Yeah, that counts. Yeah. So I like this for a couple of reasons. It was it's an interesting sort of, I want to say mishmash, but not in a bad way, of styles.
Yeah.
So I really like the 70s paint. I wish there was more of it around. I mean, nowadays you can do that stuff with a wrap if you really want to, but getting it done with actual paint would be lovely. So I like that. And that really drew me to it anyway, because brown cars, you don't see many brown cars anymore. But then with the stripes and everything, that looks super. I like the fact that it bizarrely had a roll cage for some reason, but I sort of always like cars that have no real reason to have a roll cage, and they do.
It's a race influence. It's a race.
That's what I like. Yeah. And the arch is what made it interesting, because it changes the lines in the car actually fairly substantially.
Yeah.
Even though they're quite modest arches, it's not like you've gone sort of super wide extra body and all this kind of stuff. They're fairly modest arches.
It's a very wide arch. I reckon those have got to be like 10s or 11s under the back of that. But yeah, it is confined to the wheel arch area rather than taking up the whole wing or anything. So yeah, it is it's modest in the space it takes up, but in its width, that's, I don't know, it still fit through width restrictions maybe.
I think that there is an interesting thing with the Corsair. The Corsair itself is a fairly unloved car, as far as I can tell. I mean, there's people that love them and build them, they are about. But in comparison to the Cortina and the Escort, they are like the poorer younger brother of the other Fords. But with a little bit of work, I think they could be great. And I think actually perhaps that's the point, is with a little bit of work, they become super, super cool. Whereas the Fords and the Cortinas, and to a certain degree the Granadas, just kind of look pretty sweet straight from the factory. For what are arguably boring family cars, whereas the Corsair, I think, just needs a little bit more effort involved.
Well, the Corsair's quirky to start with, and it's got that Thunderbird-esque front end, and I believe they use even the same glass as the Mark II Cortina or something weird like that. They're really very Mark II Cortina based, and I think they're probably funkier than the Mark II Cortina, and maybe a little bit more transatlantic in their styling.
I think that's true. I think actually, I was saying to you, I've been watching the Troy Trepanier series that's on Amazon Prime, and in that he mentions that he will pick up to customize for himself an odder base vehicle than the one you ordinarily see, because as soon as you look at any Escort, you're immediately comparing it to every other Escort you've ever seen or every other Cortina you've ever seen. Whereas if you pick up a Corsair to customize, not only are you probably saving a reasonable amount of money on your base vehicle, but you're also immediately got a quirkier car, as you point out, that your styling isn't then immediately compared to the 78,000 other ones of them, because there aren't 78,000 other ones of them. There's a handful, and then if you turn up in something like this, you're basically a winner in every single respect, as far as I can tell.
It goes back to, in fact, that Troy Trepanier thing. I also watched that after you suggested it, and I've been a fan of Troy Trepanier since those early days. His Impala and Bumongus and stuff that he started with were amazing cars. But it's always been my ethos. In fact, I remember, I don't know, back in the old Volkswagen days when I used to do Raving Mad T-shirts and stuff, it was so hard to stand out with a Beetle, especially if you weren't as hands-on as some of the other guys, to do all those body mods that everyone was doing when we were doing Targa tops and sunken badges and all sorts of weird stuff like that. And I bought a Skoda, and by doing a Skoda S110R in the style of the Volkswagen guys, I put centre lines on it. If I'd have done a Beetle of the same era, for a start, it probably would have cost me more to buy in the first place, and then I would have had to do something different with it. Whereas in fact, I took a Skoda and did something really basic for a Volkswagen, but to a set of centerline wheels on a Skoda was like, wow, this is amazing.
I think that's an interesting philosophy that kind of carries through onto retro rides as well, is that if you pick an interesting base vehicle, you can do fairly standard modifications on it, as long as you do them to a quality. That's one of the problems I think that I've come across in the years that we've been doing this, is someone will have an idea and they'll do kind of like the broad brush of it, and then that'll be enough. Oh, I've done that. But it's not really enough. You need to keep going with it. You need to see it through to its end point for it to be that good. So it doesn't have to be a stunningly original idea of wheels and lows. Like, that's fine, and some interesting wheels and some lows, that's all good. On an odd base vehicle is immediately better than, kind of, in my eyes, wheels and lows on something fairly common. But at the same time, it needs to be carried through to where the quality would be if it had been a Golf or a Beetle or a Escort or something. And I think that sometimes people can be more in love with their idea than the completed article. And I think that's where something like Troy Trepanier sees it all the way through to the end, obviously, because he's Troy Trepanier, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, let's have a look at the next one.
We're doing another one. It's
Yeah,
quite exciting to know. In fact, I've got a glimpse of what you're choosing on your desktop there. But yes,
yeah,
I thought you might choose this one. You liked this at the
yeah.
time, didn't you?
When I saw this, I was absolutely in love with it. For numerous reasons. The main reason is it would be super interesting to build it and then try and get it through a BIVA. But I am a huge fan of
That
cutting
would
the
go.
roof off of things.
That
I
would go
love people
straight
cutting the
through
roof.
a beaver, and the reason being is because it's a cabrio to start with.
Ah, there you go. So what
That's
you've
what
done is,
it's got the rollover hoop from the thing. We just panelled the
yeah,
back of a cabrio.
you've kind of chopped down the windscreen a little bit as well.
I don't know whether I did. I don't think I did.
I think it looks a little lower, but that's fine. That's all good.
I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I don't think it had a chop. I try and keep the proportions correct. And if I remember rightly, although this is probably 10 years ago that I did this, maybe more than that.
But
Yeah, it's I don't think it was chopped at the time. I think that probably the flatness of it gives you the illusion that it's chopped, but I don't think it is. Look at the length of that windscreen pillar. I think
yeah,
it's
true.
not chopped. And also it curves around a pillar where it wouldn't usually and makes it look lower. It's that straight
No, I see.
coupe thing. I think it's an illusion. I'm that clever that I tricked you into thinking it was chopped when it really wasn't.
So what you've
No
got here,
beavers required.
what you got here is just an absolutely incredible bit of kit, really, for not, I'm guessing, an incredible amount of money. Like there's some stuff in it. You've shaved the door handles, which for you is super easy. You just don't paint them in.
Someone who can
You've
do
panelled
bodywork,
that.
it's super easy.
Yeah,
It's not
that's the
an
thing.
expensive process if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah,
And you can do it.
and you've panelled in the back, but this boot is standard. Is this aftermarket or is this just smoked the rear lights?
It's just it's not a what was it called, a trailblazer. It's not one of those. I
Okay.
think you'd have to make it yourself, but you could make it just make it out of metal, and then paint it and then put a tint over the lights that works. Do you remember we saw that Lincoln Continental at SEMA that had the hidden lights where they just sort of lacquered over the top? You could certainly do the same sort of shade of lacquer over a fabricated metal piece and then blend that into the lights. I think you can get away with that again if you can do a little bit of metal work.
Yeah, I think if you're relatively friendly with someone that can do some metal work, you're willing to pay for it, or you can do it yourself. This build isn't actually that insane. I mean, it's a low Mk3 Escort Cabriolet. Are these arches standard? I'm guessing they are.
They are. They are
Uh,
standard. Yes.
and you've got, I don't know what they are, image split rims or something like that on there, possibly.
Could
Did
be.
you have an
actually, it's hard to tell. I think they might be like the Stuttgart wheels, if you remember. They briefly appeared on the scene about that time, but obviously with the centers painted. But yeah, there was something like a Stuttgart wheel that drifty pop had them on it.
Oh yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
I think that's what we're looking at there.
and color coded roof to wheels, always a good look. Yeah, someone, if you could just build this, that'd be great. Just someone that's watching this, you got plenty of time at the moment, and if you got a Mk3 Escort in your garage,
and a load of skills, that's it. Yeah,
and a welder and a load of skills
and some fabric,
and some fabric. You definitely some curtains or something. You'll be fine.
Yeah, the thing is, this is quite a good. I think I saw it on MX5s or something. I mean, that's the point of these things. It's about cross pollination, isn't it? Or probably on beach buggies and sand rails and stuff. That's probably easier than a roof chop to get a cabrio and then put a bikini top on it.
Yeah,
I think it looks pretty cool, and also the color scheme there's quite a few hot rods done like that in the same sort of thing. It's a good traditional hot rod color scheme. Those shades together with, you imagine red steels on a powder blue body. So there's a lot of influences coming in there.
I think the bit you'd struggle with is the pinning down of the front of the roof. That would be the little bit of extra engineering you'd need to work out so that it was super. Like that would be the bit of completion. So that's
just use the original screen header. You just use the one off the original Cabrio roof.
Will it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would.
Well, I'm not doing it. Obviously, I just draw
You
these
should be.
things. But yes, you could quite easily. Then you'd use all the same fitment. So you just do it. You just cut the front off the original roof, and use the original. I think bow is the right word. The original screen bow,
Ah, yeah, no, that makes
which
sense.
gives you all the locking mechanism and something to wrap the fabric around and stuff.
Yeah, no, that would look great. Ah, see, he does think these things through.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna shift up to the next one.
I enjoyed
So
that one.
this, I enjoyed your last one as well.
You could tell me where this one came from.
So I know almost precisely where this one came from.
Yeah.
So if you are on our YouTube channel, as you should be, because this is currently on our YouTube channel, there is a video of a Datsun Roadster that we filmed at SEMA, and it was one of my very favourite cars of the entire event. Is favourite is the word? It is for 8-year-olds, and it is for me now.
Yep.
I loved the idea of the chop down windscreen on a Roadster. So it's more of a speedster style thing. It wasn't quite a speedster, because to me a speedster has to have the little arched windows, but it had that quality to it. I'm sure there's a proper technical term for it, but this looks like that updated for a classic British car rather than a classic Japanese car, and I like it. So it's got a lot of the kind of SEMA influences in there, and it would be an incredible thing to see something like this in the UK, and I think it's got little touches of the Troy Trepanier, Chip Foo's Jaguar in here as well.
You got it spot on. You don't even need me here.
Get out.
And actually, there's a bit more to it in that we were Jason and I were talking sort of when we were back at the Airbnb in the evening. We were talking about Datsun Roadsters, and I said, well, you could do this with any sort of like sports car of the period, or you could even do it with an MX-5. But I was thinking Spitfires, because Spitfires are still pretty cheap to buy. You can still grab a Spitfire for, I reckon, £5,000 will get you a reasonable one, a good base model. And I was thinking about all that, and then of course the wheels and stuff are more sort of pro touring, and the big brakes and everything, so it combines all of that stuff. There's the Datsun, there's the Foose E-Type, as you quite rightly pointed out, and then there's those big sort of, I'm going to call them Venom-esque wheels.
They do look like Venoms. That's what I was going to ask.
Are a similar thing, and the build quality is supposed to be there. It's always hard to or for me, because I don't know, I didn't do training anywhere or anything, but to illustrate a lovely metallic paint job is quite difficult thing to achieve. But that's what I was trying to do. Hopefully you don't have to have been at SEMA to know what I was hinting at, but that is what happens.
You never know. I liked just these little touches. That's where I was thinking that's kind of that Chip Foose stuff. Just, I don't know, like the extra mile gone to make sure everything just kind of is detailed a little bit perfectly. I just really liked it.
The right amount of chrome on it. Little slimmed down bumpers and the custom front roll pan and stuff. They're all very Foose. If you watch Overhauling or something, first thing they always do is, we're going to get the bumpers tighter to the body, and we applied all that to a Spitfire, which I suspect no one's really done before.
I think it's fair to say that is an unusual thing. I'm actually, even though we can see that there's another picture, I'm going to pause it here. And we will come back next week, because the time is almost up. I'm trying to keep these under 20 minutes, so we don't take up too much of your life with our rambling about car pictures. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming and watching us talking cars. We will be back, probably next week. Probably looking fairly similar to this.